Welcome to the 13 News Now Sports Overtime podcast, where I am joined by sports director Brian Smith, who went live from a Norfolk Tides game this week.
Yes.
The game was postponed due to rain. He still found a way to make it entertaining. Brian, welcome back to the pod.
Thank you very much, Connor.
And
Shane,
of course,
how are you doing, my man?
I am doing excellent because I'm here with you guys. And of course, we got to welcome Shane Fordham, who went live from way, way out in the very outer edges of our viewing area today. His earpiece died, and he still found a way to make it entertaining, though that one may have been on accident. Shane Fordham, welcome back.
You're such a jerk. You know that? You're such a jerk.
I thought you handled it with incredible composure. Look, what can you do with tech difficulties? What can you do? And nobody has made more mistakes on air than your boy Connor Reel. I also am thrilled to be here on the pod. And we start where we happen to start almost every. Tremendous uprising of a team that I don't think anyone saw coming. The Indiana Pacers have taken a commanding 3-1 lead over the New York Knicks after a game where they didn't have a crazy comeback with a bunch of random stuff happening. They didn't have some epic bounces of the basketball while the Knicks were in crazy foul trouble. They just straight up, head up, beat the New York Knicks. I think that they showed in Game 4 that they were just the better team. And that is oftentimes what happens in Game 4s. So, Brian Smith, we always start with you and your emotional reaction. Is it over? I think is the first question here.
My humble opinion, I believe it is over. OVA over. In fact, Shane and I were kind of talking briefly about it before we went on. And I said, the Pacers are acting like a championship team. Championship teams, the good ones, find various ways to win. They had more depth. You could see the numbers, minutes on the bench. They went like 5 deep with guys in double digits. That makes a difference. The Knicks tried to. Tom Thibodeau finally went into the bench, went as many as 5 players, but nowhere close to the numbers that the Pacers had just coming off the bench. I think you're seeing liabilities defensively. Good point was made after Game 4 that Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, as great as they can be offensively at times, they can be defensive liabilities at times. You can't do that. If you want to be a championship team, you're great at all facets. You win in various ways. We've seen that. And unfortunately, that's just not the case with my beloved New York Knicks. But I'm proud that they went to the conference finals.
And I want to jump in before I throw it to Shane. I want to jump in. I do want to say that I agree with you completely, and that ultimately what happened is the New York Knicks could not get stops. When they needed stops down the stretch, they just could not get them. But I do want to shout out Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns had the only positive plus-minus for all of the Knicks starting 5. And I think over the last 2 games, Karl Anthony Towns has actually played really, really well. And when Brunson was out with foul trouble and they could not get buckets, they went to Karl Anthony Towns, and he played some ISO ball, and I thought he really showed up. So despite the fact that he does still have defensive limitations, I do want to give some props to Karl Anthony Towns. I think he's played better in this playoffs than I ever expected him to play in big playoff runs. So a little bit of credit to Cat. I think he's actually been really, really good. A little bit of apologies for everyone's going to notice the glitching in my screen. It's the heat. It's the heat from my takes. You know, it's firing off.
It's telling you this should be a LeBron no-fly zone.
Well, guess who?
That's why.
Tyrese Haliburton's favorite player of all time, LeBron James. And with that, I will throw it over to Shane Fordham.
He can't help himself.
Shane, your thoughts on LeBron? Knicks Pacers.
Yeah, I actually want to piggyback your point, Connor. Just kind of highlighting Karl Anthony Towns, not only with the performance he had last night, but what he also had to play through. I mean, you could see by the end of the game, he really had trouble walking, barely getting up the court because of his knee issue. You know, not really sure what's going on there. But despite that, still had 24 points, still had 12 boards, was 8 for 15 from the field, more than 50% of his shots. Still, and I mean, honestly, it's crazy because whenever he plays aggressive, there's not a lot of guys that can stop him in the paint. Like whenever he just puts his head down and decide I'm gonna play grown man basketball, I'm gonna play bully ball. I mean, it's either gonna be a bucket or it's gonna be a foul. I mean, no matter if it's Miles Turner on him, no matter if it's Pascal Siakam, Karl Anthony Towns is gonna get his, and he is definitely a huge reason why the Knicks are even at this point in the season.
Let me jump in on Karl Anthony Towns. You're absolutely right. Before we leave Karl Anthony Towns, this is pure conjecture. Pure conjecture. We don't get every camera angle. We have no idea what's going on in that locker room. This is just straight up speculation, because sometimes it's fun to speculate. Did it seem to you guys like when he was going through his physical ailments last night, no one else on the team seemed to care all that much? Did anyone else notice that? He's on the bench with that towel over his head in his hands. He can't even get a pat on the back from one of his fellow New York Knicks.
I think it was just that the other guys were too tired. Like they were too tired to even like to get over there and like check out.
The most well-conditioned athletes in the world were too tired to pat Karl Anthony Towns on the back. That's probably what it is.
If you played as many minutes as they do under Tom Thibodeau, yeah, they're gonna be tired. Yeah, they're gonna be worn out. You saw this last year in the conference semis when they lost to the Pacers. Guys were getting hobbled. They were getting hurt. Jalen Brunson actually physically broke down last year. He didn't do it this year, thankfully, but you can see it. They're worn out. So I don't know what the answers are. I know social media is going fire Tibbs, but, maybe get Malone.
Not for me. Not for me. I say stick with Tibbs.
5-year. Remember now, 5-year windows for Tibbs. Every time it happens, guys get worn out. And do you want to take a chance and they get off to a slow start? What do you do then?
You're in the conference finals, and you are the highest bounce that went in the basket in the history of the NBA from being 2-2 in the conference finals going home to New York.
No. You blow a 17-point lead and then blow a 14-point lead with less than 3 minutes to go. That bounce was just.
I wouldn't say that's
all.
I wouldn't say that's Tibbs' fault though. I think the depth on the team is more of an issue than the coaching. Like, and I get it. Like Tibbs had, like, in terms of his history, his rotation method, he hasn't been the best at using guys off the bench. But it's not like he's had a plethora of guys to choose from bringing off the bench like Rick Carlisle does in Indiana. I mean, he's got guys that can give him 15 to 10 points off the bench consistently. I mean, Mathurin had 20 points off the bench last night. So it's not like he has a lot of depth to really work with. I think if you get Tibbs a couple of more, plug in, swap out pieces that he can actually trust, that are actually reliable guys to use off the bench, a little more so than who he has to work with right now, other than Mitchell Robinson, other than Deuce McBride. I don't think Tibbs would have as big of an issue with his rotation as he has this season.
And let me speak for you, B. Smith, because I think I know what you're saying, and then I'll toss it back to you. I think what B. Smith is saying is that when your starting five is that expensive, especially your top four, when they are that expensive, you simply do not have the resources to add depth to this team. So unless you make a trade, you're probably not going to be able to beef up that bench in a meaningful way. So if you can't change the roster, then maybe some people feel like, all right, well, then we have to change the coach. I personally say don't change anything. You're in the conference finals, and the East is looking like it's going to be really weak again next year. But I think, B-Smith, maybe that's what you're saying, is the only place to upgrade might be the coach.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations, too, and I'd mentioned this to Shane. This was their first year. You got to think about it. Mikal Bridges, the new faces that came in, Karl Anthony Towns, and everybody, it is rare that you put together a certain bunch and they win in the first year. I could think of an example, the Toronto Raptors in 2019. You bring in Kawhi Leonard, and all of a sudden, boom, this flash of light comes up and they wind up winning. We saw it with Tom Brady with the Bucks first year. Granted, just because you bring in a host of talent does not guarantee that you're going to win the first year. Just from a manager standpoint, from baseball, Bruce Bochy, first year with the Texas Rangers, they go on to win a World Series title. You got to have some good fortune, But I don't care how much talent you have, you're not going to win it in the first year. He may need a second year with this group. I'm talking about Tom Thibodeau. Maybe he does need a second year.
Oh, I think you're cooking right there, B. Smith. And look, it's our society, right?
Yeah.
If you don't,
and I'll go one step further. It's New York City. This isn't just any city. This is Gotham. This is the city that expects you to win. Expect.
They haven't expected wins for about 25 years. So I don't
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
If you don't like what you see, you scroll, right? Whereas if you look back throughout the history of the NBA, basketball maybe more so than any other sport, chemistry matters. The ability for five guys to come together as one matters. And so you bring those five guys back, and the improvement that you seek will come from their growth as a unit. That is what you have to try and do, especially because there's not a lot of meaningful solutions here. I mean,
I will say this. As much as it was great to have Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, last year's team had a chemistry, and I know this is probably sacrilegious as a Knicks fan, but it eerily reminded me of the days of Frazier, DeBusschere, guys. I said
New York Knicks remind you of
in terms of sharing the ball. In terms of sharing the ball, this team eerily reminded me of them. And as a Knicks fan who remembers those days, they did. Now, I'm not saying they were Hall of Famers playing the way they did last year. No. But that chemistry you were talking about, Connor, does matter. Having Hartenstein.
Do the Pacers this year remind you of the 70s Knicks? Because they share that ball. And it's been a stark contrast to Jalen Brunson pounding the heck out of the ball, trying to find something, switch hunting. Even Pat played well. It's going to be a lot of ISO ball. Whereas the Pacers, Haliburton moves that thing, he cuts, and then they get to moving the basketball. So the 2025 Indiana Pacers are just like the 1970s.
Whoa. I did not say that.
I told you
sharing the ball reminded me last year's Knicks. Sharing the ball reminded me.
I got it. I'm messing with you. I know it's tender. I know you're tender right now. I'm messing with you. Shane, can we move on to Tyrese, Shane, or do you have more thoughts on Game 4?
Oh, dear Lord.
No. I like the. I thought it was.
Apologize.
No, that's not what's gonna happen. But I just thought it was worth. I thought it was worth it. Sort of highlighting, piggybacking off of your point for Karl Anthony Towns, but then even Brunson. I mean, talk about a dude that has to work every single night. I mean, like the Pacers have multiple guys they can throw at him throughout the game, making him work for every bucket. Still dropping 30 points, almost 30 points every game. I mean, honestly, like the more I watch the series, there isn't much more you can ask from Brunson or Karl Anthony Towns. Like there isn't much more. I do have to
push back on that a little bit. I do want to push back on that just a little bit because in Game 2, Brunson had 11 assists. Outside of Game 2, 1 assist. So if he could become a guy who's able to better lift up his teammates and play make for others on his squad, I do think that is an area where he could improve. Now, he's a scoring guard, no question about it. But when you run into a team that has enough perimeter defenders to kind of shut off that hose, is he able to then elevate the other guys? Sometimes guys just miss shots. I actually do think Brunson has a lot of playmaking to him. But you talk about we can give him props while also acknowledging that there are some areas where Brunson could have been better in this series.
For sure. But I mean, I think that's more so the team as a whole, as opposed to focusing just on Brunson, because the team as a whole has definitely been struggling with turnovers throughout this series. I think last night they had 17 total turnovers, but I just think that also speaks to the depth of the Pacers. I think that speaks to the defensive capability of this Pacers team. They're just, because they're fresher, they have more energy and they're less likely to make as many mistakes as the Knicks have been susceptible to because they're tired. Like like you said, like this starting five, they're all playing over 30 minutes every game. Like if you look, and B. Smith, we were talking about this before. If you look at the two starting fives for the Pacers and the Knicks, almost every player on the starting five is averaging or has 200, almost 200 more total minutes than the opposing players on the other starting five.
I was shocked to see after game 4 that Tibbs put in 5 guys off the bench. Like,
I mean, he's got he's got to. If the separate, I mean, he doesn't have a choice. Like the separation is 200 minutes, 200-minute difference between both sets of starters. I mean, he didn't have a choice. I think Tibbs's issue was he did it too late. Like I think he started digging into the bench a little too late. I mean, we really should have started seeing more of these guys early. I mean, really at the beginning of the playoffs, like against Detroit. We really should have started seeing Josh Hart come off the bench a little more too, kind of giving them a little more size to start out with, which would give a spark to the bench. But I mean, we should have saw a little more campaign. We should have saw a little more of Chiwa as well coming off the bench. We should have saw more of Deuce McBride. We should have,
bro. Precious Achiuwa is not the answer.
I'm not saying he's the answer, but he's what you got. I'm not saying he's the answer, but he's what you got.
Chemistry does make a difference, though. That's why I was hesitant, and not that it was my call, losing a Hartenstein, losing a DiVincenzo. Chemistry made a big deal with that team last year, and they just probably needed to tweak as opposed to go full in.
I gotta push back on all this. Okay,
push back all you want to. They needed more depth.
The New York Knicks are in the conference finals for the first time in how long? They took down the Boston Celtics. Okay, you talk about last year's team was scrappy and they were fun to watch. This year's team is clearly better, in my opinion. Yeah. I think the moves they made have largely worked.
I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying.
But don't have nostalgia for last year's team just because this year's team has lost a couple games.
No. It's
because are better than last year's Knicks.
And but I also said too, Connor, they need another year. Like I agree, they need another year. They need to tweak it even more because this team does wear down, and it may have to. Unfortunately, it may be another 2 years because they might have to replace the coach.
But the fact that they even made it this far, first year with this team, I think that's enough.
I'm a long-time Knicks fan. I'm the only one of the three of us that can hate all he wants.
But you can't hate a lot. But you can't hate in favor of last year's squad. Like I wish we had last year's squad.
I said I wish we had the chemistry of last year's squad. The chemistry, it's there. I think it's there. I still think they need 1 or 2 players to add depth off the bench.
I don't think chemistry is the problem. I don't
get 1 or 2 players.
Yeah. I don't think
they got to come together. And to Shane's point, I did think Deuce McBride was going to play a bigger role in this series. Yeah. And I wonder why he's fallen out of favor with Thibodeau. But you can't just play more guys to play more guys' sake. You can't just say, well, I got to play more guys, so let's throw Precious out there. Or let's
go deeper in the playoffs. You need more depth to be a
champion. Try to find lineups that work, but you can't just be like, well, let's just play more guys. Those guys in those minutes are going to struggle, and you're still going to lose these games. And frankly, I just don't think that we should be hating that much on the Knicks. They gave up a crazy.
Who's hating? Who's hating? I'm not hating.
If I choose to, that's
I'm not hating.
Okay,
I said from the very beginning. I'm
being constructive. I'm being constructive.
I'm so used to Shane hating that I've lumped him in there with the gentleman that is the veteran here. I'm sorry about that, Shane. I apologize. I genuinely apologize. All right, so we've got the dominating 3-1 lead, Knicks Pacers. That's a good discussion about that series that we had. A little bit of touching on what the Knicks need to do to be able to get to the next level. I will say this, being down 3-1 is a little different when you got 2 home games left. They win game 5, all of a sudden we're having a slightly different conversation. But for now, it's a dominating 3-1 series lead for the Pacers primarily because of Tyrese Haliburton. Now, we've talked about Tyrese Haliburton on this podcast every time we've done a podcast. Now, granted, we started during the NBA playoffs, so that's normal. Myself and B. Smith have been riding on the Hallie bus since this thing started, okay? We're not in the front. We're not driving, but we did reserve a seat on the Hallie bus, whereas Shane has been behind the Hallie bus with a crowbar just swinging at the taillights, trying to put
them out. Hallie hating. That's what it is.
I'm slashing the tires. Okay. Letting the air out the tires.
It's Hallie hating.
So for some reason, Shane wants to have a discussion about whether or not Tyrese Haliburton is a superstar. I'm assuming it's because he's going to try to say that he's not, but we will certainly dive in here because it's a fun topic. So Shane,
well, I'm just curious about what you all think, because I know that's a big topic that is sort of taking over the sports sort of world right now. You know, current events right now in sports. Like, do you guys, because of
that and Stephon Diggs.
That is we will touch on Stephon. But I wanted to know, like,
we should not.
Yo, no, we shouldn't. No.
He's being touched on enough, you know.
Yeah.
All right, let's focus up. Let's focus up here. Okay. So
I wanted to know
in the chest area.
Because of how highly you guys are talking about Haliburton, do you guys think that he is a superstar right now?
Well, let's do this. I think first we need to probably set the parameters for what a superstar is, because it's possible that we have different definitions. So I'm going to throw a couple things out there, and you guys feel free to add on. We're going to work through this in real time. I haven't really set any parameters, but we can kind of talk through it. I think number one, a superstar to me is someone who is capable of being the number one option on a championship level team, either a team that is winning the title or a serious contender for the title. I think a superstar has to be on that level. And for me, a superstar has to be able to get his own and elevate his teammates. Now, does that elevation come strictly through playmaking, strictly through passing? Maybe not. For someone like Steph Curry, his gravity elevates his teammates. For someone like Giannis, his ability to cover 5 positions, to cover the entire court at once, elevates his teammates. So there are different ways to do it, but those are 2 very important parameters for me. A number one option on a contending team, a number one option on a team that you could see winning the title, and then someone who is able to get his and also elevate his teammates in some way, shape, or form. I think those are the 2 key primary aspects of superstardom for me. Do you guys have anything to add to those parameters?
I say resume makes a difference. What you've done last year, what he did. Now coming into this year, he's improved. Even though he scored 11 points in game 3, I guess it was, but I forget which game it was. But for the most part, he made his teammates around him better. He showed up when he needed to show up. He took over when he needs to take over. He's starting to build a resume over the course of the last 2 seasons.
Okay, so 2 things to add to the parameters based on what B. Smith just said. The one, I completely agree with B. Smith in that a superstar needs to do it multiple seasons, multiple series. You can't just do it one time, have one big season or one big series, or even one big playoff run. If you win the title, that might qualify you. I mean, that's a huge thing. But consistency over time, dominating over time, makes you a superstar as well. Now, you added that they need to come up big in big moments, and there's a very clear counter to that, because I don't think there's any question that James Harden, throughout his prime, was a superstar. I don't think you can argue that he did not get it done in big moments. So, but with James,
but his volume, but he had the volume. I mean, that's like Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. Like, we're not going to say Lamar Jackson. I don't mean to switch the sports here, but just using it as an example.
I get it.
We're not going to say Lamar Jackson is not a superstar just because he has fallen short in the playoffs consistently.
Okay,
like it's also volume of work, like the body of work that he has demonstrated in the regular season. James Harden, the body of work that he demonstrated in the regular season throughout his prime. I mean, an MVP, even at that, being an MVP, being arguably having a season where he was the best player in the NFL, or at least the best offensive player in the NFL. Like that, I don't think just because you fall short in the playoffs, that negates the whole entire regular season. I don't think that.
And we're not talking about falling short in the playoffs necessarily, because James Harden's Houston Rockets took the Warriors to a Game 7. The all-time Warriors, They took them to a Game 7. There was a stretch there where the Houston Rockets, with James Harden as their best player, were true contenders. And they had playoff success. What they didn't have was, in the biggest moment, James Harden coming through, putting them on his back and carrying them through. So therefore, not a qualifier for superstardom. So what we've got, so Shane, go ahead.
I think you can be a superstar and not be a winner. Like I don't think those have to be the
have
same
to
thing.
win games. You have to be on a team that can for a champion.
When I say winner, I don't just mean winning games, because James Harden could single-handedly win you a game in the regular season. I mean, clearly enough games were won to the fact where they were in the playoffs. But when I say winner, I mean consistently competing for a championship or at least a conference finals. Like you don't have to be a winner to necessarily be a superstar. I mean, you can be a superstar just off of talent, like in terms of what you like. I think you can be a superstar just based off of what you
gotta
saw
have
in the
the
regular
production.
season.
You gotta have the production.
But that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying James Harden had the production, at least in the regular season. He had his moments where he had it in the playoffs. Wasn't consistent, but I think that in combination, I think that's enough to make James Harden a superstar. He's not a winner. He's not a winner. Like he's not a guy that'll get you a ring.
His teams went on deep playoff runs. He just game sevens, fourth quarters, games where you're down one in the series. He was not able to go out there and get it done.
So he wasn't a winner. He wasn't a winner, but he was still a superstar for sure.
I think James Harden's a winner. I just think he's not what we would quote unquote clutch, right? I think you have to be a winner. I don't think you necessarily have to be clutch to be a superstar level player over the years in the NBA. Now, you're never going to be the GOAT. You're never going to be the greatest of your generation if you don't go out and have big clutch moments to win titles. But in terms of being a superstar, I think you can do that. So those are 3 parameters. Are there any other parameters that you want to add, Shane?
Yeah, I have one. I think if you score 4 points in game 3 of the playoffs, you can't be a superstar. That's what I think. What if you
won the title the year before?
That's my honest, objective opinion.
What if you won the title the year before as the best player on your team?
But that didn't happen. Like, we're doing what ifs then statements. That didn't happen.
Like, hey, B. Smith.
Yes.
Isn't it funny that the same guy who doesn't think Tyrese Haliburton's better than De'Aaron Fox also has no respect for Jason Tatum? It almost seems like his vision is clouded in some way by his personal biases. Isn't that interesting? Huh.
I think he is a budding superstar. I think at this stage of the game, he has shown the abilities. He looks like one. He's putting together the numbers, and they're winning on top of that. I feel like through his body of work and moments, because moments do matter in certain playoff games, if you come through and hit a shot.
Shane just said that doesn't matter.
Oh, it matters.
What doesn't matter?
For being a superstar, you don't have to come through in the biggest moments.
In moments. That's what I think. To me, if you consistently can do that, which I feel like Tyrese Haliburton has, that 4 points does matter.
But that also applies to people who have done it consistent, like who have more than just one season of dominating.
He's had 2
Tyrese
seasons.
Haliburton in the regular season,
he's putting together a resume.
The regular season this year. He wasn't dominant in the regular season this year. He was being dubbed as overrated because of how inconsistent he was. That's not a superstar.
He made 13 All-NBA.
But that's not consistent. Like a superstar has to be more consistent than that during the regular season. That's still going off of one season. Like,
you want him to be top tier like De'Aaron Fox. You want him to be top tier like De'Aaron Fox, right?
Right.
You want him to be top tier.
I never said De'Aaron Fox was a superstar. I never said that. Those words never came out of my mouth. Okay. I said I do think De'Aaron Fox is a better overall basketball player than Tyrese Haliburton. I think he has a higher ceiling, but I never said he was a superstar. But at the same time,
there's
I'm not
no evidence
I
to back that up.
You said what?
I say for the last 2 seasons, Tyrese Haliburton has put together a good resume.
Okay, first of all,
not a superstar resume though. Like B. Smith, I'm with you in the sense where I think Haliburton can be a superstar. Like he's definitely, I mean, he's only 25. He's young. He's got plenty of time and he's on his way there. But I'm saying in terms of right now, I'm not putting him on the same level as a Luka, as a Giannis, as a Shea, as a Steph. Like I'm not putting him up there as a Jokic. Like I'm not putting him up there with those guys off of one season. And I just can't do that.
It's not. First of all, it's not off of one season. Second of all, just because you named a bunch of guys better than him doesn't mean he's not a superstar. That wasn't the question. Is he better than Giannis? Is he better than Jokic? The question is he a superstar? Now, I don't know. I think it's an interesting discussion. But if you are going to say, listen, the guy has 3 straight All-Stars, or he has 2 straight All-Stars, 2 straight NBA third teams. Last season, he led the league in assists with 10.9. The year before that, he averaged 10.4 assists a game, 2 straight seasons with 20 and 10. So, and then last year, he made the conference finals. So
he was averaging less than 19 points a game, though. He was averaging less than 19 points a game. Those aren't superstar numbers.
He's a playmaking point guard.
But that doesn't make him a superstar. Like, he's a valuable player. He's an all-star.
Not averaging
he's an
30
all-star
points.
caliber player.
Not averaging 30 points doesn't make him a superstar either. Just because you average 20 points doesn't mean you're not a superstar. Steve Nash was a superstar, and he wasn't out here averaging 30. Okay? Jason Kidd was a superstar, and he wasn't out here averaging 30. He's a playmaking point guard. B. Smith, what do you always say? What's your favorite saying? If you've seen the things that I've seen. See, Shane came up at a time where it's all about scoring guards, and that's a lot of what dominates the NBA now, and I get that. But a man is out here averaging 20 and nearly 11 assists. You can't say he doesn't have the numbers. His numbers are just different, right? And I don't agree at all with he's not good enough in the regular season. The Pacers, from the time Paul George left, Victor Oladipo did his thing. Victor Oladipo went down with an injury. The Pacers were irrelevant. Tyrese Haliburton gets there in a trade, and all of a sudden the Pacers are making playoff runs and going to conference finals. And it's not because Tyrese Haliburton didn't dominate the regular season. He has very impressive regular season numbers and resume, and do not underrate all NBA third team. That's an impressive spot. That means you're one of the 6 best guards in the league. That's a tough spot. So don't act like
I'm not underrating that at all. Like I'm not up here saying Tyrese Haliburton is overrated. I'm not saying he's trash. Like
you don't believe he's a superstar yet.
Yes, I don't think he's a superstar yet. I agree with you in the sense where he is on his way. He could get that status next year. He could. I'm saying in terms of what we are seeing now, though, like present day.
So what we're seeing now is a player
I'll tell you what,
the NBA playoffs.
If they stamp their ticket to go to the finals, he's scraping superstardom.
We got multiple All-NBA third teams. We have leading the league in assists. Those are regular season accomplishments. In the playoffs, we have a second straight conference finals, the brink of the finals. He's hitting game winners the whole way. And in the biggest game of his career, game 4 of these conference finals, he had the best game of his career.
So 38.
You want to talk about his game, or are you going to keep trying to poke holes in a resume that is more and more solid every day? What about his game do you think makes him not a superstar? Because you keep trying to poke holes in a resume that continues to have concrete layered over it. I mean, it's rock solid. You have not liked him, right? And now he's proving you wrong. And at some point, you got to start to accept some of those things.
For the record, 32 points in game 4. Shooting didn't do well from the line, 5 of 12. So he could easily drop 35 if he hits 3 more free throws. I mean, he made a difference in this game. Pascal Siakam, he makes the guys around it better. Siakam had 30. I mean, he's making the people around him better.
Siakam, no. Don't talk to me about Tyrese Haliburton making Siakam a better player. This man was a champion coming into Indiana. Let's not act like Tyrese Haliburton revived Siakam's career as if this guy wasn't a perennial all-star consistently before playing with Tyrese Haliburton.
So now you're downing.
That's not what we're gonna do.
Pascal Siakam, I think, what was it, game 3? Or was it game 2, Connor? He had a career playoff high, I think 38, 39.
Well, not only is Siakam playing well, but it appears as though he has formatted his game to fit the style that Tyrese Haliburton wants to play. Siakam, all playoffs, how many times have we seen Siakam leak out, catch an outlet pass, and get a bucket? That has not always been his game. I mean, especially once things got bogged down with the Raptors a little bit and that team kind of became an island of misfit toys. He was starting to plod around the court a little bit. He gets there with Tyrese Haliburton. He adjusts his style to Haliburton's, which to me is a little bit of it's another check mark.
But he also, but Siakam.
And here's another footnote. He also had 15 assists. 15 assists in Game 4.
Oh yeah, he's been dominant. He has been dominant. Yeah,
he doesn't do anything.
Playoffs, multiple game winners, but we're working from a very strange place.
Yes.
Because 1 week ago, Shane said that De'Aaron Fox was better than Tyrese Haliburton. So
I still believe that.
And your opinion is your opinion, and that's fine. There is no statistical or eyeball evidence to back that up whatsoever, in my opinion. But that's your opinion. So Shane is working from a totally different universe than we are. I mean, Haliburton has a long way to climb for Shane to see him as a superstar. And I think that you're asking him to do more than we think he needs to do to prove this.
I one other footnote too, if you want his lines just from Game 4: 32 points, 15 assists, 12 rebounds. So he had a triple double.
I mean,
has De'Aaron Fox ever even come close to those kind of numbers in the playoffs?
And
he hasn't had as good of a team either. Let's not act like the teams are on same.
I understand that. Well, I'm saying, has he even had that during the regular season?
But then even proportionately, Tyrese Haliburton has a better coach for at least longer in his career than De'Aaron Fox had during his time in Sacramento.
Get out of here with
100%. And even with that,
De'Aaron Fox has
multiple seasons. De'Aaron Fox has multiple seasons where he has averaged over 20 points a game. Tyrese Haliburton, the highest he has ever averaged in the regular season was 19. Yes, he did. In this past year, De'Aaron Fox averaged 23 points a game. Last year, De'Aaron Fox averaged 26. That was the year they made that Cinderella run in the playoffs.
They didn't win a single series. 2022, they didn't even win a playoff series. 2022,
he had 25 points. 2022, he had 25 points in the
You're talking about
season.
Fox?
I'm talking about De'Aaron Fox.
Did you say Cinderella run? Because they didn't win one series. He's never won a playoff series. And tell me the most assists he's ever averaged in a year. Is it 7? Because Haliburton led.
But that's different, though. That's different. He doesn't have the plethora of weapons that Tyrese Haliburton has. He can pass to any one of his starters for a tray ball in the corner and get an assist. De'Aaron Fox doesn't have that same talent.
He still led his team in scoring: 32 points, 12 boards, 15 assists.
And if you take Haliburton off,
bro, that's one game though.
You're right. You put him up 3-1. You're right. It is just one game, but it was an important game.
What was Nembhard before he met up with Haliburton? Was he on the bench in Boston? What was Neesmith before Haliburton? What was Miles Turner before Haliburton? Right? Yes, it's a good-looking roster, but that's because Haliburton elevates all those guys. That's what he does.
I'm not saying that's not true, but I'm also not saying that De'Aaron Fox couldn't do that same thing if he was on the Pacers instead of Haliburton.
He never has.
He hasn't been in a position to. He hasn't been in a position to. So you're telling me De'Aaron Fox didn't make Sabonis a better player? If you want to go that route, you're telling me he didn't make Sabonis a better player? What was Sabonis able to do without De'Aaron Fox?
Sabonis.
What was Malik Monk doing before he got traded to the Kings and reunited with De'Aaron Fox? The best basketball we've seen Malik Monk play, he was always side by side with De'Aaron Fox.
Malik Monk
was a Sixth Man of the Year candidate.
Malik Monk is a microwave scorer off the bench, and that is what he has always been. All right,
But he has clearly been a better and more electrifying player, whether starting or off the bench, when he is next to De'Aaron Fox. He wasn't able to do that in LA. He didn't have that same sort of impact on the game when he was playing with LeBron.
He didn't have as many opportunities. Listen, De'Aaron Fox is a fine basketball player. He's never won a playoff series ever once in his entire career. And when you come at us, right, Shane, here's the thing. When you come at us about De'Aaron Fox's accomplishments, and then we say, well, Haliburton led the league in assists, and you dismiss that as, well, he's got great teammates. You have got to give.
It's not dismissing. It's not dismissing. I'm just saying that does play a factor. The fact that he does have the fact that he does have better teammates and better weapons around him than De'Aaron Fox, you can make the argument that it would be easier for him to rack up more assists on a regular basis than De'Aaron Fox, who doesn't have as deep of an who didn't have as deep of an arsenal when he was on the Kings.
Well, you actually thought the old guy here was crazy when I said he is having Reggie Miller like moments. You thought I was crazy before all this happened.
I thought it was crazy. I thought it was crazy when you said he was like Reggie Miller, because that's the first thing you said.
Reggie Miller, like I've seen this before, and sure enough, and that was before Game 1.
Sabonis is primarily an offensive player. That's what he does. Malik Monk is primarily an offensive player. That's what he does. He had Harrison Barnes on his team. He was surrounded by offensive guys, and he couldn't even average 8 assists a game. Haliburton goes to the Pacers with a roster full of dudes that nobody was scared of, and all of a sudden they're in 2 conference finals, and he's averaging over 10 assists for multiple years, leading the NBA in assists. It's not because he was dropped on to the 2017 Warriors. The guy is elevating the players around him. How can you not see that?
I'm not saying that's not the case, but we're not going to act like these two have been on equal footing in terms of situations. Circumstance does matter.
Okay, let's go through it.
Circumstance matters 100%.
Let's go through it.
That's not. We can't use the fact that Haliburton is in a better situation to discredit De'Aaron Fox as a basketball player.
But at some point, superstars
gotta give him his due. And I'm a Knicks fan. It's hard to come up with this and say, no, I ain't all that. No, I can't do that.
Right. At some point,
I can't.
Hold on now. At some point, superstars are able to overcome their situations no matter what it is.
Yeah.
That is what a superstar does.
Did Tyrese Haliburton have to play Stephen Curry in a playoff series?
No, he hasn't.
He did not.
He did not.
Finals. You can't. So we know that Giannis with no help. Giannis had no help on the Bucks.
He played Giannis in the playoff series.
It was just Giannis, though. It was Giannis and the other Bucks.
More discrediting.
You remember how a couple years ago
that Steph Curry team that you're talking about. Did they have prime Clay? No, I don't think so. So are we going to discredit them too? Stop discrediting. All right.
But listen, will you acknowledge is the Eastern Conference an easier conference to play in than the West?
No question.
So that's also another obstacle. So De'Aaron Fox is in the harder conference with the worst team, as opposed to Haliburton, who is in the easier conference, not as competitive conference, with the better team. Frankly, the better coach.
Let's go through our parameters. We set our parameters. We set our parameters for a superstar before this.
Yeah.
First parameter was you're a number 1 option on a team that contends for a title. Currently, Tyrese Haliburton is 1 win away from the NBA Finals. De'Aaron Fox has never won a playoff series. He's never been the number 1 option on a team that is a true contender ever. Tyrese Haliburton is that right now. Number 2, you are able to elevate the players around you. De'Aaron Fox has never been someone who is able to run an offense through his playmaking. He can get his, but he has never been able to elevate his teammates to a place where they play so far above themselves that they are able to truly become competitors. Number three, year-over-year success. Tyrese Haliburton in his second conference finals. He's averaged over 10 assists twice. He's made All-NBA third team twice. De'Aaron Fox has done it once. So every parameter that we laid out for a superstar, Haliburton has matched or come close to matching. De'Aaron Fox has not matched any of them. So how is it that De'Aaron Fox is better than Tyrese Haliburton? What you're going to say is that all of De'Aaron Fox's circumstances are bad and all of Tyrese Haliburton's circumstances are good. Well, maybe if that's your excuse for every point we make, then Haliburton has something to do with making those circumstances look good. And De'Aaron Fox has something to do with not being able to make his look good. So that's it, man. That's it.
I don't think that's the case, because when these guys were teammates, it was clear who the better player was. It was clear who the number 1 option was. So if I'm looking at these two side by side, and
I would have traded Fox, and a lot of people said that at the time. And 100%, a lot of people said that at the time. And Fox was in what? Year 5, year 6? Haliburton was in year 1 and 2? Come on.
He's
They're
scraping
just if
stardom.
you're looking at these two playing
Sabonis has
basketball.
been an all-star. You love Malik Monk. There's players on that team. Fox has not done enough to make his situation look good, and you're using it as an excuse. Haliburton's done enough to make his look good, and you won't give him any credit for it.
I'm not giving him credit. I did give him credit. I told you I respect him. I told you he is on his way to being a superstar. All I said was I'm not ready to say that he is better than De'Aaron Fox just because of what we are seeing right now.
Right now.
When we know
it's
been a rocky year for De'Aaron Fox.
It's not even
losing his
close.
head coach in the middle of the season,
It's
getting
not close.
getting traded to a team, and
Wait.
after
Did
that,
you
like
say lose his head coach? His head coach got fired.
that's what I'm saying. He lost his head coach.
No, he didn't lose him. He
didn't
knows
have-
where he
didn't
is.
have-
He's at home.
He had a stint in Sacramento where he did not have a head coach.
Why does coach
he
get
also
fired?
gets traded?
Why does coach get fired?
We're not gonna say it's because of De'Aaron Fox. Is that the point you're trying to make?
Because the team wasn't good enough.
Brown got
He's the best player on the
traded
team.
Brown got fired because of De'Aaron Fox not being able to produce.
The
Is that what you're saying?
The coach got fired because the team wasn't good enough, and he's the best player on the team. How's Haliburton's coach doing? Does he have a job?
He's also a former champion.
True.
And playing in an easier conference.
Yeah.
Had to play two injured teams on his way to where they are.
Here we go. Here come
You know
the
what to
excuses.
deal with. That's how I look
Here
at it.
come the excuses. When De'Aaron Fox played the Warriors, Klay Thompson was a shell of himself. We can make excuses for everybody all the time. Who's putting results on the board?
I didn't realize he had 15 assists.
Tyrese Haliburton is probably one of the 10 best players in the league.
Yeah.
De'Aaron Fox is not in the top 20. Who was selected for the Olympic team? Who won a gold medal this summer? Who's playing basketball right now? Who's playing basketball right now?
If De'Aaron Fox was on the Pacers, he'd be playing basketball right now too.
No shot.
If De'Aaron Fox was on the Pacers, he would be playing basketball right now too.
Absolutely
Right now
not.
too.
All right,
Yes,
you want to
he
break
would.
down? Let's break down the game. Let's talk about the actual game that they have, okay? Because De'Aaron Fox is a scoring guard, right? That's what De'Aaron Fox does. Is he as good of a scoring guard as Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson? Is he as good a scoring guard as either one of those guys? Is he even close? The best he's ever shot from three is 37%. That was one season. Outside of that season, he has never shot over 32%. His second year, 37, and when he was 26, 36.9. Other than that, never over 32%, and he's a scoring guard in a league that is driven by outside shooting. That puts a serious limitation on your offensive ceiling because in the playoffs, they can sag off of your best player. They can't do that with Tyrese Haliburton. Maybe that's why the Kings haven't advanced, not because they have a bad supporting cast or they're in the West. Maybe it's because their best player has serious limitations. And that's why he got traded this season and his coach got fired. Tyrese Haliburton, update, not traded, coach employed in the conference finals.
It will steadily sink in. It will. I think it will.
Now you got me yelling again.
He's reluctant to come to this side. I get it. I understand. But look, my team's down 3-1.
Do you think De'Aaron Fox is a top 10 player in the league, Shane?
No. But I wouldn't say, I mean, it's not like I wouldn't say Tyrese Haliburton is right now either. I can name 10 basketball players better than Tyrese Haliburton.
But would you say Tyrese Haliburton, in most people's estimation, is closer to the top 10 than De'Aaron Fox?
I would say yes, but I just don't agree. Just because of what we're seeing right now. But I still don't agree. Because that's the narrative that's being painted right now. That's the narrative that is being painted.
It's based on the results.
It's based on numbers.
You think people are just making this up?
It's based on facts. It's based on
the
also
results
what
of
we're
the game.
seeing.
Painting a narrative. He's up 3-1 in the conference finals. He just had the best game of his career. They're not painting anything. He is painting the narrative. He has taken control and is winning games.
And that's aside from your shot in game one.
Okay, let's do this. Shane, talk about
this. Okay, so you brought up 3-point. You brought up 3-point percentage. But overall field goal percentage, De'Aaron Fox has a better overall field goal percentage than Tyrese Haliburton. Especially if we're looking at the recent years. This year aside, because of his situation, Tyrese Haliburton shot for 47% from the field. De'Aaron Fox's last full season, his best season, he shot for over 51%.
When was that?
Tyrese Haliburton hasn't shot for over 51% since his first year in Indiana, really that was just 50%. So overall, De'Aaron Fox.
What year is he in Indiana?
He's in his fourth year.
Fourth year.
He's in his fourth year.
How long has De'Aaron Fox been in the league?
De'Aaron Fox has been ESPN. De'Aaron Fox has been in the league since 2017.
So 8 years to 4. He's done. It's readily evident that Haliburton has more in less time than De'Aaron Fox. Can we agree on that?
But that's where I'm saying circumstance matters, because he has had more time in a better situation.
A scoring guard who has to attack the rim because he struggles to shoot from the perimeter. That's why his field goal percentage is higher. That's why his field goal percentage is higher.
Yeah.
And again, he's not remotely close to Haliburton when it comes to playmaking and elevating his teammates. He's not in the same.
Haliburton
But that's where I think the circumstance comes into play. That's where I think the circumstance comes into play.
If De'Aaron Fox were that good, and you're saying that he just completed his 8th year,
yeah,
it should have happened. He should be a budding superstar by year 4.
Well, technically ninth.
9th year.
8 full seasons in Sacramento.
And now, based on those facts, it's sticking out like a sore thumb that Tyrese Haliburton is scraping stardom.
How many times do you think he's been an all-star, Shane? How many times has De'Aaron Fox been an all-star? 1 time in 8 years.
How many for Haliburton?
Haliburton has
2, 3.
3. Well, did he make it this year? He's got 2.
I don't know. I don't remember. No, he's done. Here are the numbers that aren't lying. This isn't we're not dealing with analytics or anything. We're talking about straight up numbers. He's done more in less time than De'Aaron Fox,
unquestionably.
And he's got his team in back-to-back conference finals, which De'Aaron Fox has not done.
Is anyone arguing about whether De'Aaron Fox is a superstar? Is that the number one topic in sports media right now? No. They're talking about whether or not Tyrese Haliburton is a superstar.
Yeah.
De'Aaron Fox got traded to go be the number 2 in San Antonio because the league understands that he's not even a number 1 on a playoff team. And he got traded to San Antonio to go be the number 2 to Wemby. Maybe the number 3 to Wemby and Castle.
And now you know why, Shane, that I did bring up the fact that he is showing Reggie Miller-like moments.
Last question for me. Shane, honestly, Shane, do you think the Spurs would trade Fox for Haliburton straight up right now? Would Greg Popovich do that?
Do I think the Spurs would trade De'Aaron Fox for Haliburton?
Right now, straight up. Honestly.
I'd be asking him for way too much.
Come on. I mean, it's not.
I'd be asking way too much.
Hey, B. Smith, let's do a practice. I'm the San Antonio front office. You're the Pacers front office. Actually, you be San Antonio, or I'll be Pacers. You're San Antonio. Okay.
Hey,
right.
Hey, we
how you doing? Rick Carlisle here. Listen, we're tired of Haliburton. We're just going goofball for playoffs. People want to go on vacation.
Yeah.
You know, it's May. We're tired of playing. You want Haliburton for Fox?
Sure, why not?
Oh, yeah.
Straight up. Straight up.
Straight up, just a one. Right.
Let's see what De'Aaron Fox's production looks like 1 year playing with Wemby. We got to see Tyrese Haliburton play with Siakam. We got to see him have a plethora of weapons around him. Neesmith, Nembhard, they got a bench. Let's see what De'Aaron Fox looks like now that he is in a better situation, in a better system, with a more reliable running mate in Wemby, who has a higher ceiling than Sabonis.
I think that's.
Yeah.
And then
I hope that.
But two things, real quick. One thing, Shane, before you keep going, I feel like I've probably been talking too much. I'll let you guys flex after this. I am looking forward to that, and I do think that De'Aaron Fox is going to have a nice little comeback season, and it will be as the second best player on his team, whereas Tyrese Haliburton is driving the bus. De'Aaron Fox is going to be sitting shotgun, and I think that's a perfect place for him because he's not good enough to be a number.
But Tyrese Haliburton would be doing the same thing if he was on the Spurs. It's not like Tyrese Haliburton would be the best player either if he was.
But the reason Fox is on the Spurs is because
he doesn't have Wemby.
They traded him there because they realized as the number one option in Sacramento, it wasn't going to happen for him.
But you didn't have to. But even if that's the case, I mean,
He's a good number 2. He's not even a number 1 at this point. Tyrese Haliburton's in the conference finals as a number 1, and he's one game from.
But he's coming out of the East. He's coming out of the East. He couldn't do that coming out of the West.
Well, right now he is doing it in
Tyrese
the
Haliburton
East.
would have to be a number 2 as well.
Okay,
to come
so
out of the West.
B. Smith, I guess we're not allowed to judge it based on what's actually happened. We have to live in the theoretical fantasy world.
But you can't just ignore that, though. You can't just ignore that. Like
You
you
can't
cannot.
ignore
what's happening in real life.
I'll tell you what.
So if De'Aaron Fox was in the East, I think he'd be able to do the same thing.
No,
I think he'd be able to do the same exact thing if he was in the East right now.
Well,
if he was in the East.
Shane, what happens should Tyrese Haliburton and the Pacers go to the finals and win the whole thing, upset Oklahoma City?
No.
What if they do that?
Okay, first of all,
what if that were to happen?
If now that's a different conversation. If that
I'm just saying, are you going to
happens,
change your mind if that were to happen?
I mean if that happens, then I would have to give it to him at least until this season.
I'm just throwing it out.
At least
there.
until this season.
I would have to worry about it.
But that's
you're not going to worry about it because that's not going to happen.
That's a huge if. Just because of how good that OKC team is.
Oh, it's great.
I don't think that would happen at all. But
and you talk about how good the West is, okay, and that's great. All right, the Cleveland Cavaliers won 64 games. 64.
And they had a game. They had a game where 3 out of the 4 of their best players were injured. That was a pivotal game in the series.
2 out of 4. 2 out of 4.
Well, 2, yeah, but they had another key piece that was injured. But yeah, 2 out of 4. 2 out of 4.
Then all their guys played the rest of the series. The Pacers beat them in 5, and in Game 5 they humiliated them.
It was also with Mitchell being hurt as well, though.
You talk about what they do in the West. The Cavs. Do you think the Cavs were better than the Rockets in the regular season? Because the Pacers beat the Cavs. So maybe they'd be doing some work in the West too. And as much as you like to discredit everything about everyone's supporting cast, if they're not the 96 Bulls, it's not easy to take down Giannis either. I don't care how bad his supporting cast is.
So we are talking about a West. So in the East, the Pacers had to worry about at least in terms of who they played. They played the Bucks, a hurt Bucks team. They saw a hurt Cavs team, and now they are seeing just a Knicks team. Knicks team, still a good team, but we talked about the depth issue. We talked about how the Pacers do have a leg up there.
Hey, B. Smith, I like how we get to a healthy team, and he's like, well, yeah, I mean, they were healthy, but like also they've got.
Were we not just talking about for 20 minutes how the Knicks have a severe depth issue, and that was the main reason. That's one of the main reasons why they are losing in this series.
Shane, every team has flaws. That's painting a narrative. Is when you find a little, this team this, and this team that, and that team this. So none of Haliburton's wins count because they came against teams with, again, Shane needs them to beat the healthy 96 Bulls, and then he'll be like, I got Haliburton.
Should the Pacers get to the finals, and then let's say they play OKC, and they beat them, a healthy OKC. I'm saying if it were to happen, what would he say then?
No, I mean, that's just one crazy scenario. I would have to give it to him.
We're to focus on football. The Patriots might win the division, but we're not going to work based off of that thesis. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's not possible.
Is the West a deeper conference in the East? Yes or no?
Unquestionably.
Okay, so that's my point. I'm saying if I'm looking
that does not make De'Aaron Fox better than Tyrese Haliburton. De'Aaron Fox isn't even in the playoffs. He's not even making the playoffs. He's not even making it to the playoffs. The thing that Tyrese Haliburton is dominating right now before our eyes. But we have spent too much time on this topic already. We're talking.
He's got a heart, but that's my thing, though. We're like, you all are measuring these two guys based off of their most recent success, based off of where they are now.
How dare we? How dare we?
Why do we do that? You're measuring them based on their recent.
Look at the circumstance too. The circumstance 100% matters in this case. It 100% matters. That's all I'm saying. You got to look at the circumstance.
Would you do me a favor? When you judge players, would you just judge them based on what they did 6 years ago? so that we can know what's going on. Don't judge them based on their recent success. That's what this is all about. That's why we got the 13 news.
But what I'm saying is, what has Tyrese Haliburton so heavily talked about right now is the recency bias, because he is in the Western Conference Finals right now.
He's dominating the NBA.
He's good.
Not dominating the NBA. He's
good.
First of all, if we're looking at his playoff performance as a whole throughout this postseason, he hasn't been the most first of all, he hasn't been nearly as consistent as Brunson. Brunson has maybe 2 games under 20 points. He hasn't been nearly as consistent, and we're talking about this guy as being a superstar, and he has multiple games where he has had under 15 points, let alone 20. He's been inconsistent throughout the entire postseason.
He's outplaying Jalen Brunson right now in front of all of our faces.
That's not true. He's not outplaying Brunson. He's not outplaying Brunson. Brunson is averaging almost 30 points a game throughout the entire postseason. Brunson is smothered every night, and he's still dropping 25 to 30.
And the
Knicks also getting into foul trouble. He's also
Brunson has a better supporting cast than Haliburton.
He's gotten into foul trouble the last 2 games, and that includes the win. 2, he doesn't play as well defensively as Haliburton's the better overall.
We're watching it happen.
We're watching this happen.
Night in and night out. Haliburton is dominating the series.
Bro, wait a minute.
I know this for a fact that
who are
Brunson
the Pacers relying, bro? What game did the Pacers rely on Tyrese Haliburton to play defense? Tyrese Haliburton hasn't had to lock down Brunson one time. They've relied on Nesmith. They've relied on Nembhard. They obviously rely on Siakam and Miles Turner trying to deal with that. They don't rely on Miles. They don't rely on Tyrese Haliburton for defense. Jalen Brunson has to bring it on both sides of the ball. On both aspects of the game.
The Knicks aren't relying on Anunoby and Bridges, 2 of the best perimeter defenders in the league? Yeah. What are these arguments?
Of course they are, but what I'm saying is, if you're looking at Haliburton and Brunson, who has more responsibility? It's Brunson, because they're not that deep of a team. They don't have defenders coming off the bench that they can throw at the other team's best player. Brunson has to play on both sides.
That's because the Knicks have a coach that doesn't want to go deep on the bench. That's why.
But they don't have
that's my point. Brunson has more of a responsibility.
But I'll also say
Brunson has a better starting spot.
Is crazy
can we also agree? Can we also agree?
But he doesn't have a deeper team, though. Tyrese Haliburton has the deeper team with other guys who can still drop 20. Like, Nesmith can explode. Nembhard can explode. Siakam can explode. They got guys that can explode, but they also
go to the Knicks.
Shane, I'll put it this
deep,
way.
Though. They don't have the bench.
The intangible is also the coaching aspect, too. And Rick Carlisle's playing chess right now, and he's beating the bricks off of Thibodeau right now.
That is true, but that doesn't mean Tyrese Haliburton is outplaying Jalen Brunson. That's just not true.
A lot of it has to do with Haliburton making a difference in this series.
He's done.
That's true. He's obviously making a difference, but he's not outplaying Brunson just because they're winning in the series.
Pascal Siakam, proving to be the better. Of Tyrese Haliburton, because of him, is having a career playoff postseason.
100%.
I mean, he had a career high 39.
100%. He is having a career postseason.
But that is not.
But that 100%. But that also doesn't mean that he is outplaying Jalen Brunson. That's just not true. Brunson is dropping 25 to 30 points a game.
Also, in the last 2 games, he's also gotten into foul trouble.
Because he's playing more defense than Tyrese Haliburton.
And Haliburton has had. I think Haliburton's a better defender than Brunson, and Haliburton has had 11, 11, 7, and 15 assists. Brunson is 11, 5, 5, and 1. Okay?
But he's dropping more points. He has to. The difference is the Pacers can win if Tyrese Haliburton isn't dropping 20 to 30 points. The Knicks won't win if Jalen Brunson isn't dropping those numbers every night.
The only game. Well, now it's
not the only game. Tyrese Haliburton has multiple games where he hasn't scored over 20 or really over 15 points, and the Pacers were still winning. The Knicks can't afford. They can't win games if Brunson isn't scoring 25 to 30 points. They're not winning games like that.
The only game, you ready for this, B. Smith? It just works this way sometimes. The only game the Knicks have won in this series, the only game they've won, Jalen Brunson scored 23 points.
Yep.
So
that's still over 20. That's still over that his lowest.
25 to 30.
You brought up his worst performance in the playoffs,
and it's the only game the Knicks won. What does that tell you?
Tyrese Haliburton's worst performance in the playoffs, he had 4 points. There's a huge difference between these two floors.
You said,
like, what are we doing? What are we talking about?
Shane, you said that the Knicks can't win unless Jalen Brunson is scoring 25 to 30 points. The only game in the series where they did win, he scored 23 points.
So 2 points. You're bringing up a 2-point difference? You think that proves a point? You're bringing up a 2-point difference?
It means that what you're saying, which is that the Knicks cannot win unless Brunson is Atlas, maybe that's not true based on the results.
Okay, so let me widen it then. 23. 2-point difference. If he's not scoring 23 or more, they're not winning.
Well, you can so now what?
So now what? It's a 2-point difference, Connor.
The only game the Knicks won in this series. I watched Jalen Brunson sit on the bench for almost the entire fourth quarter.
Because he was in foul trouble.
And it's the only game the Knicks won.
And it was Cat that bailed him out.
Bailed him out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is...
So Tyrese Haliburton hasn't had Tyrese Haliburton hasn't had games where Pascal Siakam bailed him out.
Yes.
He hasn't had games
Every
where
player does.
bailed him out.
Every player does.
Tyrese Haliburton has been bailed out more than Jalen Brunson because Jalen Brunson can't afford to have an off night. Tyrese Haliburton can afford to have an off night on the Pacers.
We just gave you an example of Brunson having an off night and the Knicks winning. We just proved this point.
But your off night for Brunson is 23 points.
Yeah,
for most of the players in the NBA, that's a great night for them. 23 points. An off night for Haliburton is 10 or less. That's an off night for Haliburton.
Points
in terms of if we're going Brunson Haliburton, overall, I would take Brunson. In this series, I think Haliburton's outplayed him. I'll take the guy whose team is up 3-1. He had a game-tying buzzer beater, and he had one of the great games in Pacer history last week. Now, De'Aaron Fox, he's looking up at those guys. He can barely see them. He's like, who is that up there? What is that? Wait, do they still play games in May? I thought, is that Summer League? De'Aaron Fox thinks these fools are playing Summer League. He doesn't even understand what's happening right now because he's never been that far. But
let's watch. I can't wait until this year. I really can't wait. Because honestly, De'Aaron Fox is one of my guys. I like De'Aaron Fox.
Sure.
De'Aaron Fox is one of my guys. De'Aaron Fox is one of my guys. I cannot wait to see him prove you guys wrong this year in San Antonio. I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
I apologize.
And we will say we've gotten pretty harsh here. We've had to get pretty harsh. We will also say that De'Aaron Fox seems like a wonderful guy, right? He's always seemed like a good teammate and a good leader. So we don't mean to diss him personally, and I hope he plays well with San Antonio. Now, as always, Shane, I appreciate your passion. It makes for some really good discussions. I'd be interested to watch this back. I don't know. We got pretty – that was a lot right there. Okay. Do people find that entertaining? I have fun doing it.
Who knows? I just got to go. Okay.
All right.
I got a headache. I need some water.
You're hating.
Oh wait, Beastman, I think that's the final. We may have won this one here.
Hating is causing you a headache. That's what.
Bro, because y'all are trying to tell me De'Aaron Fox is not a all-star caliber player. He's not on the level. You're trying to tell me Haliburton is playing Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson hasn't had a game this series where he scored under 20 points. Hasn't had a game really most of this postseason. He hasn't dropped under 20 points.
He's great.
Haliburton's done more in 4 years than De'Aaron Fox has done in what, 9 years? Pushing 9 years now.
But I'm saying when we talk about that though, when we look at the bigger picture, we have to look at it all. We have to look at the circumstance. We have to look at the team. We have to look at the conference they're in. Like if we're going to talk bigger picture, we can't just talk about these two guys alone. Take their results. And just look at these two guys alone. Like
I'll give you an example. Sometimes we always look at circumstance, and sometimes Nikola Jokic. I think we've all got Jokic over SGA. SGA is still playing, but we are able to say that Jokic doesn't have the team. SGA has a built-out roster. We've seen right. Sometimes circumstance does matter, but in the case in the grand 2025 debate of Haliburton versus Fox, the circumstance is not one. It's a little bit misleading, in my opinion.
Not even
like we said, Haliburton makes guys look good. And two, it is not enough to supersede what we've seen in real life with our eyeballs. Now, speaking of real life, I think it's time that all three of us go live it. We are on hour 10 of the pod. It's been a great pod. Shane, I think you made some really good points, and I'm excited to watch some Spurs games with you next season. You did a wonderful job. You almost could convince me of downright falsehoods being true. You got that much skill on them. Sometimes the games themselves are just too much to overcome. Now, is there anything else we need to touch before we get out of here? Is there anything else we need to get on before we get out of here? I feel like that was at some point we're just not going to be talking Knicks anymore because they're going to be out of there. So we got to really
heck of a run by my Knicks. I'm cool. I'm proud with them. Yeah.
I do have a question, and this will probably be an entirely different episode, but
how many girls were on the boat with Stephon Diggs? Is that the question?
I was thinking about that because I lost count. I'm not gonna lie to you, I lost count. But I will.
There were multiple.
I'm looking at Anthony Edwards, right? I'm looking at Anthony Edwards. He is obviously.
We're never gonna finish this pod.
Yeah, I mean, no, I know we got.
I can talk about Ant all day.
Just for thought for like next week. Like we've seen, we've been talking this guy up all year. I mean, supposed to be the next face of the NBA, but he seems to be struggling in a similar fashion as Jason Tatum did this postseason. And y'all know what my thoughts were on Jason Tatum. I know you guys probably can't answer this now, but do we need to start looking at Anthony Edwards as if he is overrated?
No. Oh, heavens no. He's 23 years old. He's still trying to figure this stuff out.
We're an hour 12 in. How dare you? Hour 12 in, you say some nonsense like that?
I'm not saying I am. I'm not saying I am. I'm just.
I get where you're coming from.
It's an honest question right now, just in the sports world,
because
of how we are seeing him. Now, I will say, I do think we have to. This circumstance plays a role in this too. Y'all know, we were just talking about this before. You look at the circumstances. In my opinion, the Thunder are a much better defensive team, all-around team than the Timberwolves. So I do think that plays a part in it as well. But I mean, on one of my last rank tanks, I said this was a legacy-defining series for Anthony Edwards in terms of how he played against one of the best teams in the NBA. Like in terms of if he were to not even necessarily winning this series, if he were to stand out in this series more than what he has been, that would have been definitely a step towards, you know what I mean? Like taking more of a step up on that ladder.
Always remember this: budding young stars are going to in these times of the particularly of the NBA, they're gonna struggle.
You guys are going to be so mad at this, but here's the comparison for me right now with what we're seeing. 07 Bron. 07 Bron gets to the finals. He runs into the Spurs. He has a really tough series, and you simply cannot blame that on a 23-year-old still trying to figure his game out.
You mean
already exceeded expectations?
You mean the Celtics?
I think the Thunder are what?
You mean the Celtics?
No, he played the Spurs in the finals. 07.
Oh, finals. I thought you were talking about playoffs before he was getting to the finals at that point.
Now we're not going to go there with him losing to the Dallas Mavericks.
Let's wrap the pod. Let's do this. Let's do a deeper ant dive next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's
I'm saying he's not overrated at 23 years old.
I don't think so either. I don't think so either. I had to ask because that's one of the, other than Haliburton, that's the other big name that is being talked about right now heavily is Anthony Edwards this series.
You're going to hit bumps in the road early in your career as a player. There are only a handful of players. Heck, Jordan, it took him 7 years before he finally got his first title.
What?
7.
What did you say, Shane? Did you say Haliburton and Ant are the only players being talked? Don't forget about Stephon Diggs, baby. Come on, do not leave my man.
He's putting up different type of numbers. Different type of numbers. Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us for another edition of the 13 News Now Sports Overtime podcast. We'll be back next week. We're going to try to do just as much debating, but less yelling maybe. And I think we'll be able to get a handle on this eventually. But for now, that'll do it for the 13 News Now Sports Overtime podcast. For Shane Ford and for Brian Smith, I'm Connor Real. See you next week.